Alright guys, so up to this point we've done quite a bit with the DOM. We've looked at selectors, changing styles and content, traversing, creating, removing, replacing elements. We've done all this within our code, but we haven't done any kind of interaction with the UI or with the web page. And this is where events come in. Okay, so we can listen for events on absolutely any element, anything in the DOM. So we're going to choose to add an event listener onto this clear task button, just so I can give you a quick example. Alright, so we first need to select it, so we'll use one of our selectors. We're going to use query selector, which is mostly what I'll use in this course. And if we look at the HTML, you can see that it has a class of clear tasks, so we'll just have to throw in here dot clear task or tasks. Okay, now we can add on to this and we can say add event listener. Alright, now this takes in two things. It's going to take in the actual event that we want to listen for, which is a click, and then it's going to take in an anonymous function like this, okay, a callback function. And this is whatever we put in here is what's going to happen when we run this click event on this object. Okay, so let's just do a console.log. And we'll just say hello world and we'll save that. Okay, so now let's go over here and click. Now notice that you can see hello world, it flashes real quick down here in the console when I click. The reason that that's happening is some elements have default behaviors. For instance, a form will submit to a page, a link will try to redirect somewhere else. What's happening is if we look at the link here, it doesn't have any href, meaning that it's just going to link to the same page. Now, if we put a hash symbol in here, that's going to stop it from actually making the browser redirect. So if we go ahead and save that and we click clear tasks, now we can see hello world and it stays. But I want to show you that even if you have nothing in here or you have an actual link, like let's say google.com. Okay, so now if I click it, you will see the hello world real quick, but then it's going to redirect to google.com like it should. That's the default behavior. Now to stop that default behavior, we can pass into our function here, our callback, a parameter, which is going to be the event object. Alright, we're going to look further into this event object, but what we can do with this is we can prevent the default behavior by calling the prevent default method, like that. Alright, so even though this goes to google.com, which you can see if I hover over it, it says down here google.com, if I click it, it's not going to go. It's just going to log the hello world and then just do nothing after that, because we're preventing that default link behavior. Okay, but like I said, if we just have a hash symbol in here, then we don't even have to worry about doing that. Alright, now that still works. So in addition to just putting in an unnamed function as a second parameter, what I'm going to do is just copy this and comment it out. You can also put a named function. So if we get rid of this whole second parameter here, this function, and let's just say on click like that. So what that's going to do is when that event happens, it's going to look for a function called on click. Okay, and we can still pass in our event parameter. And then let's say console.log, and we'll just say clicked. So now if I save and we click the button, we get clicked. So I think that having a named function is much neater than just, sticking an unnamed function in here like this. Now I want to take a closer look at the event object. So let's go ahead and comment this log out, and we're going to set a variable called val and just console log it down here. Okay, just like we've been doing. And I'm just going to set val equal to the event object so we can take a look at it. Alright, so we'll click, and you can see we get this object and it has a whole bunch of stuff associated with it. For instance, the client X and client Y gives us the position of where the event happened relative to the window. We can get the let's see what else. For instance, shift key tells us if shift was held when the event happened. We can get the timestamp. But the most important thing here is the target, okay? Because the target represents the element that the event actually happened on. In this case, it's the A tag. All right, if I hover over it, you'll see that it'll highlight inside the DOM, inside the window. Okay, so let's take a look at the target. So we'll say, actually, let's do element or event target element. So we'll say val equals e dot target. Okay, now if I click that, you'll see that it'll just give us the actual element, the HTML. Okay, now we can do whatever we want with this or get whatever we want from it. So if we say e.target.id, we could get the ID. It doesn't have one, so it's just going to be blank. But if we wanted to get the class, we could do e.classname. And let me just make this smaller. Click it, and actually it should be target, e.target class name. And we get the three classes that are associated with it. Now, if we wanted to get these as a collection, what we could do is we could use class list. So e.target.class list. And if we click it, you can see now we get a list with all the classes. So you can do whatever you want with this. If you wanted to, for instance, say e.target. And let's see, this is a button, so we'll say inner text equals hello. All right, so now if I click this button, you'll see that the actual text of the button will change to hello. So you can do whatever you want when an event fires off. All the stuff that we've learned, all of the changing of the styles of the text, everything, all that stuff we've learned, we can do when we fire off an event, okay, which is really powerful. So some other things we can look at in the event object, we can look at the actual event type. So if we were to do val equals e.type and click, you can see that it's a click event. If I go up here real quick, just as an example, I'm going to change it to mouse over, which is another type of event. If I mouse over the button, you'll see we get mouse over as the type. All right, and I'm going to go over all of the different types of events in a little bit. Okay, another thing we can get is the timestamp. So val equals e dot timestamp. Click it, we get a timestamp. You'll see it'll change each time that I click. Another thing we can do is get the coordinates. So if we want to get the coordinates of the event relative to the window, we're going to say val equals e dot client y. So what this does is if I click, we're going to get a number. So this 540 here is the number of pixels from the top. We're on the y-axis, which is the vertical axis. If I go down to the very bottom of the button and click, it'll be a little higher. If I go up to the top, it'll be a little lower. All right, so it's on that axis. Now we can also get it from the x-axis, so the horizontal axis. So now if I click at the beginning of the button, you'll see 77. That's from here to here. If I go to the end, then it's going to be 216. All right, now we can also get the coordinates relative to the element itself. And we can do that with offset. So offset y and offset x. Okay, so for example, if I were to get the e dot offset y, when I click, we get 18 at this spot. If I go to the very, very top here and click, that's 1. And down at the very bottom is 31. All right, and then a bunch of numbers in between. If we look at the x-axis, if I start at the beginning here of the button, we get 2. Okay, so this is from the button. This isn't from the window anymore. If I go to the end, then we get 140. All right, so we can get these different coordinates. So there's a lot of other stuff attached to the event object if you want to explore it a little more. But like I said, the target is really important, especially when we get into event delegation, which we're going to talk about in a few lectures from now. But what I want to do in the next video is just take a look at some of the different types of events, some of the different types of mouse events, and then we'll move on to keyboard and input events.